us up this hour, a Chinese citizen journalist held since May for her live stream reporting from Wuhan has now been jailed for 4 years. 37-year-old Zhang Zhan is a former lawyer who has been convicted for her reporting in the initial stages of the outbreak in Wuhan. Zhang is the first to face a trial of a group of 4 citizen journalists who have been detained earlier this year after reporting from Wuhan. Zhan's live reports and essays were widely shared across social media in February. It then grabbed the attention of authorities, who have punished 8 coronavirus whistleblowers so far. The trial took place today at the Shanghai Pudong New District People's Court. Ahead of the trial, Zhang's lawyers had spoken with the news agency AFP. They said that Zhang Zhan wanted to help the Wuhan people, and she wanted to understand their suffering and let the outside world know, so that they could avoid this kind of crisis and be better equipped to handle the same.
这个案子真的是非常有价值和意义。第一，这个疫情是全世界的影响；第二个呢，中国是很特色的国家，在别的国家言论自由和新闻报道自由是非常的公开和敞开的，在中国反而不一样。特别是因为在武汉发生这个事，那张展他是抱着希望能够帮助武汉人民，希望能够去了解他们的疾苦，能够让外界有所知道。来就是每个人能更好的回避这种灾难嘛。
Human rights groups have also drawn attention to Zhang's case. She was critical of the early response in Wuhan to handle the outbreak. She wrote an essay that the government did not give people enough information, then simply locked down the city, which is a great violation of human rights. An international team of World Health Organization experts is expected to arrive in China to investigate the origins of COVID-19. For more on this story, joining us live is Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick, a journalist from Hong Kong. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. Now, can this recent arrest of a journalist who wrote extensively about China's handling, or rather mishandling, of the outbreak in the early days be perceived as another crackdown of dissent?
Oh, really, since the beginning of the coronavirus outbreak, as early as this time last year in Wuhan, we've seen how determined the Chinese government is to control the narrative. In fact, earlier this month, we saw an investigation by the New York Times that showed, just how much resources they were pouring into remolding how the coronavirus epidemic is perceived worldwide, right, playing down negative stories and promoting the positive. So this just fleshes that out further. And as you mentioned earlier, she's not the only journalist to be facing trial. There are 3 others who have been missing since February and unheard of since then.
Right, as you just pointed out, we know of other whistleblowers too who have been arrested. Tell us about some of the charges against this particular journalist.
So Zhang Zhan was convicted of picking quarrels and provoking trouble, which is really a catch-all charge that is frequently levied against activists and critics of the regime. It can be used in virtually any situation to silence these people. We see it come up very often in the trials of activists. It's a charge that we'll likely see in the trials of the other journalists coming up.
Right. Now, Ryan, this particular journalist, like many other global leaders, has called out China for hiding information about the outbreak in the initial days, making sure that other governments don't prepare themselves well enough to control the outbreak. Now, what does this mean for free press in China? Will anyone who criticizes the government be put behind bars?
Likely. The situation for the press, like the situation for non-government organizations and human rights lawyers and many others, has been deteriorating in recent years as Xi Jinping's government cracks down harder and harder against any force that could question his rule. So it's something we're seeing in the mainland. It's something we're seeing within the past year more and more in Hong Kong as well. So this is not necessarily something new, but it really should signal to the world, how much China has manipulated the narrative of the coronavirus. And as the WHO experts arrive for their own investigation, I'm sure it'll engender even more cynicism around the world about how much of the truth they can really uncover at this point.
Right, absolutely. Now, Ryan, that brings me to my final question. We are all expecting a World Health Organization investigation into the initial days of the outbreak in Wuhan. But given the fact that China guards all information so closely, can we actually expect any credible investigation into the origins of coronavirus?
I think it would be very difficult at this point,
Right.
Particularly as sites in Wuhan, like the wet market in which the outbreak is believed to have originally begun, have been completely scrubbed clean. It's unclear at this point, how much evidence is still left for them to find, apart from questions about the objectivity of the WHO and the extent to which they helped China in reshaping the narrative, especially in the early days. I think there'll be a lot of questions and a lot of cynicism about the likely outcomes of this investigation.
Absolutely. All right, Ryan, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for all your inputs and thank you for joining us on this broadcast.